Hello, this is Leaf, and today I will be reading A Broken Piece of Paradise, Chapter 3. The content warnings are graphic depictions of violence and major character death. The problem with watching Lucky like a hawk around the children was it was actually really good with them. It was easy to put to work as an extra helper, which meant it could handle things on its own even though Tansy was theoretically supposed to be watching it. The children had always had trouble integrating Nineveh into a circle ball, and it was only partly because she was one of the little ones. Circle ball was one of the simpler games to set up. You needed a safe, tossable, roughly ball-like object, a musical speaker, and a song that got steadily and faster to make the ball, or peanut bag in this case, filled with packing material left behind by the original colonists, go faster and faster until somebody fumbled it. It was taught to kids to clap along with the beat, since that was how you knew how fast to pass the ball along. Traditionally, kids made the ones who fumbled sit it out, and even though Tansy objected to that practice, Nineveh tended to be shouldered aside due to her ridiculously poor catching skills, which were in turn due to her vision and perhaps even some distortion from her thick, durable glasses. The solution, apparently, was to put Lucky behind Nineveh. Lucky made the argument that the rules of the game did not define a play entity as one being, and it did not specify the number of eyes, brains, or hands that a play entity might possess. It defined a play entity as occupying a single space in the circle. So the game proceeded, with Nineveh regularly missing the catches and Lucky leaning out behind her to pick up the peanut bag out of the air and gently toss it to the next player. Until a good ways into the game, when the kids were starting to stomp and sing along with the ever-accelerating song. A lot of circle ball songs had a bit where you stomped your feet and shouted, "Hoy, hoy, hoy, hoy," which might have meant something back in the mists of time, and Nineveh caught the peanut bag. She didn't pass it on, just stared at it in startlement. Tansy bounced and clapped and shouted, "Yay! Good job!" so that the kids would start cheering too, which, to their credit, most of them did. Lucky said, "Ha!" in the most enthusiastic tone that Tansy had ever heard from it, and picked Nineveh up, tossing her into the air, almost to the ceiling, spun around very quickly while she was in the air, and caught her gently, easily on the way down. It was smiling noticeably. Unfortunately, Tansy had to impose a fairly draconic rules on the "get Lucky to toss me in the air" game.
"They're safe,"
Lucky told her reprovingly.
"I would not risk them. This is where I am now."
"I'm not sure what that means," Tansy confessed.
"It means that if something bad happens on the ship, it is my problem, my situation, as much as your situation. There is no going back for me. I will live and die with you. This is where I am now."
Lucky did not participate in everything. Notably, it took its meals in its room, and allowed nobody in there for that. But the children seemed fairly enthusiastic about approaching this new, odd stranger for monster reassurance. "The monsters are scary," Sanji told Tansy happily, "but Lucky is scarier." Tansy tried to ask Lucky what exactly it was saying to the children or to the closets, but didn't get very far. Lucky looked pensive.
"I don't feel right giving them bad data and illusions. On the other hand, they are less visibly braced for combat."
"I say, keep doing it," Tansy said. "It gives them a sense of safety." Lucky nodded, and then said,
"The safety is a lie. Conquistador left orbit 4 days ago."
"What? What's that?"
"That is Supervisor Tarash's pursuit ship. Tarash is a rising star in the company, and wishes to make Supervisor Nicaranda look like a fool. We reach the wormhole in 22 hours and 4 minutes. The Conquistador will reach the wormhole in 23 hours. If the goal is boarding, they cannot intercept. If the goal is to eliminate us, they will destroy the ship. The horizon has no defenses."
Fuck! How do you know that?"
I have been listening. The horizon is very disconcerting. It gives me the creeps. Yes, I think so.
What? Why?
It is a dead ship.
You can't guarantee that this whatever ship will reach us.
No, not that. There's no feed. There's no pilot. There's no one here. All of you walking around without any signal. It makes you look like ghosts.
Lucky studied Tansey's uncomprehension expression, making a vague gesture as if to dismiss that branch of the conversation.
I have been listening because I would be deeply upset otherwise. Your comm officer is planning to communicate with the conquistador and pretend to discuss terms of surrender while we prepare to jump. It is reasonable plan considering the resources the captain believes are available. However, if I could access both the computers and the communication system, I could send something else to the conquistador.
Like what? Lucky was silent for a few steps and stopped running its hand along the wall.
I would prefer not to attempt to compromise their bot pilot and destabilize their jump to the point where the ship becomes trapped in the wormhole. I know from many hours of listening that company personnel are not solely composed of monsters, and it seems crueler than killing them. But it might be possible to terrify the bot pilot to the point where it refuses to enter. Life support is usually well guarded, but there are some systems that can produce toxic gas, most notably sanitation, because that rarely has enough security for a system that invades quality of methane. There is also, it hesitated, there is the option for me to transmit a file. If I do that, anything could happen, from absolutely nothing to every human on the conquistador dying to who knows? A wholly unaligned armed ship under unprecedented management. As strategic choices go, that one is a massive gamble. I want to, but it's very the opposite of safe.
I'm not sure anyone will let you transmit things, Tansey said.
I may not be able to give them that choice. Even if the horizon makes it to safety in the wormhole, the problem will only be deferred. The wormhole structural data suggests that it's a 26-day jump. If the conquistador jumps right behind us, we only have delayed engagement by 26 days. Although that should be enough time for me to learn the digital archaeology necessary for dealing with your systems, and killware becomes easier to deploy, I hope.
Tansey was quiet for a moment. You've done this before.
Not this, but I've never been ordered to pick a fight with a battleship, thankfully.
Author's notes. There's another modernism first introduced in this chapter, naming the pursuit ship the Conquistador. Honestly, I'd put it in a placeholder name, and on the other hand, I did like the connotations. We have a martial, impressive figure from ancient history, someone who could be associated with private and triumph and military prowess, but also colonialist brutes, kind of like a modern military naming a pursuit craft the Spartan, thinking about the raw courage and at Thermopylae, but also bringing in shadows of eugenics, slavery, and throwing an unfit child off a cliff. I also hope that it's obvious how desperately the horizon is outmatched. It took something like 20 days for it to make it to the edge of the system where the wormhole is. The Conquistador is about to do it in 5. For any craft that we currently can describe to how to build, this trip would take months. Beresha has made massive technological edge, not in just speed, but in everything, including communications. To Lucky, this is an entirely alien world. Reader's notes. Hello, I am alive. Yes, it's been like a month. I did not think that the 803 curse counted to pod figures, especially new ones. I want to rant about how I had exams and then I got sick and then my voice sounded terrible for literal weeks. Also, the audio to this podfic is kind of messed up. Sorry, I tried to fix it. Ugh. Hope everyone has a good night or day or whatever time.